Hi, I'm Will.
And I'm Allie.
I'm a recently reborn X-Men fanatic who says no to sci-fi heroine.
And I'm a lady who's always happy to see Wolverine, even when it's not remotely necessary.
And when we combine forces, we become the co-nerding operation known as the Pairables.
Paired again.
Repaired.
Thank God Almighty, we are paired again. Ta-da!
We're back after, I don't know, did Aurora Monroe, Storm herself, keep us away from talking about the X-Men for 2 weeks?
I think she might have. How dare her?
Because here in Dallas-Fort Worth, we've been dealing with
God, this
weather
spring.
upsets.
But we're back. We're here in the same space, looking at one another.
Yes.
Mom and Dad have decided to reconcile.
Yeah, we said, okay, we had our long weekends away.
No, I've been sad. I don't want that anymore. No, thank you. No
Okay.
more me time.
As long as you will cook the eggs right, then we'll be fine.
We'll be fine.
We'll be great.
If you would learn to cook bacon, we wouldn't have.
Well, I'm not doing this on the podcast.
That's not what you're here for.
No.
Oh my gosh.
We're here to finish a contract we signed with ourselves about discussing all of the X-Men movies, just the main ones, not the Wolverines.
Yeah, not the Wolverines.
No Deadpool, which kind of doesn't to me count.
No.
Leading up to Dark Phoenix, which is by now released.
Which we have both agreed that we're probably not going to watch.
Oh, I'll see it.
I'll see it when it's free.
Yeah, I'll probably
when it's streaming.
See it. I'm willing to even pay a few bucks for it.
Oh.
But, well, just out of curiosity, just to see the damn thing be done.
Yeah.
7 movies.
That is a lot.
It's a lot of superhero movies to make.
That is a lot of superhero movies.
Yeah.
These are what we'd call the prequels, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that is, they're
prequels.
quite literally the definition of prequels.
We're going back in time.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start here at the beginning of the prequel cycle.
The very beginning.
Very, very beginning.
Until we get to ancient Egypt, eventually.
Yeah.
And modern Egypt.
We're going to take a moment there. So First Class.
For X-Men First Class.
X-Men First Class came out in 2011.
2011. And it's weird because I know that's almost a decade ago.
That is strange.
But also 8 years doesn't seem like that much to me on paper.
No, and I don't think that movie looks that age.
No, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good.
Let's just give me in a single sentence, how do you just feel about these in general?
There's a lot to enjoy, just overall.
Yep.
They make a lot of the same mistakes that they did in the first 3 films.
I agree.
Both on a production side and on a creative side, I would say. They really badly wanted it to be, it's like a soft reboot, kind of. Mm-hmm. I know there's all this timeline shit that we'll get to at the second movie.
Yeah.
But it's, on one hand, it felt like they really wanted it to, they're sticking to all these details that we know in the future, in the first 3 movies happen. Mm-hmm. And yet at the same time, they are contradicting them.
Yeah, throwing them out the fucking window.
And so it feels, you were telling me that your note was what?
One of them are described as fun but messy.
And I would say that's pretty accurate at large. There's a lot of things that are done because that is what happened in the original story they were based on, or that's what would be most fun.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I like that. As a parent, that's a good, let's go do what's fun, but sometimes you have to make the kid eat the vegetables. And it's
true.
They rarely make you do that, at least in the way that's the smart way of, well, if we are going to hold the continuity and be stringent about it, then we should actually do that across the board and make the stories work in that framework, which they do not. But that is not the thrust of it was that I did a lot of complaining out loud when I watched them, but I was highly entertained.
So that's what I was going to say. The thing that I find that's interesting is if I looked at it like the overall experience, I had more fun rewatching these than I did the others. And
absolutely.
that kind of hurts me like a smidge to say because, as we talked about the original, that one X-Men, the first one was one of the only things I owned on DVD and I just loved it because I think I was an X-Men fan, but I enjoyed these a lot more, candidly. And I think that, how would I say this? This one has certain actors that I do actually like, and I think they do a really good job, even though sometimes I know they're probably being pushed by somebody to be like, this is ridiculous, and we know it's ridiculous, but I think they make the best about what's going on. I think James McAvoy as Professor X is great.
Love it.
Like, I literally, even in the moments that are like sort of silly and feel out of character for him, I'm still sold. I pretty much feel the same about Fassbender as Magneto.
They're both eminently watchable, and certainly the best thing about the first movie to me is their brotherhood in that film.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I'm a sucker for that kind of thing where, you know, specifically when men are being vulnerable with each other or pushing each other to be vulnerable, that plucks a string in me for some reason. But
be vulnerable, men. Just do it.
It was, I mean, both are so great in those roles. I love the way that the roles were written for them. Their character development in various ways does feel very plot-driven at times, but where they start with it and that we get to see the beginning of that relationship. And apparently there's a lot of quote-unquote shippers out there who put them together, which I don't blame them. I mean, I want these guys to be together. If that was what they wanted, that's what. But the takeaway was that, hey, they want to make these fucking movies still about the same 3 or 4 mutants. That's not my cup of tea necessarily. But why not just make, like, I wanted 2 TV series to come out of this. Magneto, Nazi Hunter, just him every week, just doing shit. And then also horny young Charlie. Horny young Professor X.
He's so handsome.
He's so handsome and so fucking charming.
Oh my God. I literally have a note that says little Charles is such a sweetie.
He is lovely. I loved it. Yes.
Super fresh.
I was all about it. He had me at hello.
Okay. So similar to what, spoiler alert for Game of Thrones, similar to what Game of Thrones fans are going for in terms of Daenerys's instant, like, turn on a dime snap. That was one of the only things that, I'm not even going to say I was frustrated with it, but it kind of bothered me a little bit where it's like, I loved all the moments with Magneto and Charles. Like you said, building that relationship. And I felt like Magneto specifically had kind of gotten to a little bit higher level. He's like, I'm not just going to let my anger rule me. Somebody believes in me. Actually, other people believe in me. That's cool. And then he had what I'm now calling the Daenerys snap. Yeah. You know, he just like really turned, and I was like, I kind of feel like, granted, it is one film. It's the same argument for Game of Thrones, that I would have just loved to see that drawn out like a little bit more. I didn't necessarily find it, like, I didn't think he would snap that hard, that quick. It was like, look how much he believes in himself. Look how far he's come. And just kidding, throw it all out the window. He's done. Yeah. The second that he had, I don't remember exactly, at least plot-wise, what had happened right before. I mean, obviously, it was always an option. It was always there. I want to say it's like basically when they're going to do the attack on the 2 ships. The beach is where in my humble opinion, is where the movie falls apart. Like, hard falls apart. It's right after he ices Kevin Bacon. Well, so that's the thing. Kevin Bacon, the villain of this. Can we talk about that? Who is quite a villain. Let's resolve this part. Yes, there's a lot to talk about with him. And I love Kevin Bacon. And in fact, I think he does fine in the role. I do too. Kevin Bacon playing what is his name? Sebastian Shaw. Thank you, Shaw. Sebastian Shaw being kind of the progenitor of Magneto in some ways, because of he tortured the kid more. As we find out, if Auschwitz wasn't enough, this man took it further. The way that it plays out, that Magneto goes to find him and then rejects Xavier upon killing the man. I can see how on a character level that would happen. How it's like, you know what? I've gone too far. I won't let myself be taken in, even though you're still willing to have me. Also, what an intense way to die. The coin through the head, Daniel. I know, it was fucking, it was bad. That was rough. Whew. But what it feels like in watching it, almost it plays out like Magneto was actually faking the entire time. That's right. Just to get close to Sebastian Shaw. And I don't think, clearly they don't play it like that ultimately. Yeah. And I feel Magneto at the end when Xavier gets paralyzed, and it's really Magneto's fault. Yeah, and when Xavier tells him, it's your fault this happened, even though Magneto won't accept it externally, I think some part of him, he has a sadness about him that says, like, yes, this is what happens, or if nothing else, it's sad that this is what happens when I do what I have to do. Yeah. If nothing else, even if he doesn't accept it as I made a mistake. And that's interesting, because that harkens back to the comment that Magneto makes when Charles actually dies. Right. We see, he's like, it's a shame he had to. Right. Well, and that's why I phrased it as such, because
he loves Charles and truly loves him as a brother and wants, he talks about how he wants to build something with him.
Yes.
But it is like with a gun in your hand saying to the man flashing a peace sign, let's do something together.
Yeah.
It is clearly not going to work. And that he thinks that could still happen. I guess it's just desperation at that point, because I think he is a young man relatively still then. And so he's more all over the map emotionally, which is, we've talked about it, why I wasn't a huge fan of Sir Ian McKellen and how he was written in those films.
Yes.
This version of him is so passionate. And so he really is the Wolverine of the movie.
I agree.
Like, there is no real Wolverine in the movie except for the one little cameo. But to have that character that's kind of like, I'm going to do it my way, and I'm struggling with what's going on inside.
Yep.
He really filled that role, and I would say very well. And to the point that I really, I'm fine with him being Magneto, quote unquote, by the end of the movie, but I could have stood to just spend more time with him.
Same.
And honestly, the way that they keep using him in the movies after this, it's like they realized the mistake, because it's like they have to keep bringing him back into play.
Yeah, he keeps coming back in the fold.
But he's not like, and they have to act like, well, I'm willing to tolerate you for now because of this. But like, they're so fucking in love with, and I get it. Just make the movies, The Adventures of Charlie and Eric, because that's what you want to talk about the most, and I don't blame you, but they keep having to manufacture these reasons why, okay, well, I'll take you back into my life this one time, at least for now, for this reason. Remember when we were buddies
together?
And then Magneto fucks him every time. Every time. He's a terrible friend to have.
Every single time.
Yes, every time. So I agree that on the other hand, that beach scene for me is emotionally resonant. But I guess because of the way that Charles Xavier handles it, he doesn't go into hysterics. He seems like he seems shaken by what's just happened. Of course, he's now paralyzed, but his emotional reaction is so staid. I don't know. I can't put the words together for what that means to me.
Again, James nailing it. Nailing it.
Yes.
So let me explain real quick why the beach thing, what about it fell apart to me.
Yes.
All of that I am absolutely fine with. The fighting with the young mutants is so silly.
Yes.
It's just so silly.
Yes.
And I felt like at that point we had been building some momentum. Even the fight scene when they're at the house when Shaw infiltrates with kind of his bad guys, that could have been more silly, and it wasn't. It was like acceptable. You got these young kids, they don't really know how to harness their power. They don't have full control over them, but they're trying. By the time we get to the beach, we got the goofy devil guy. We got the shrieky, yelly guy, Scott's brother. It just was a little like, oh, we got the flying wing chick. It just got a little silly. And then, but it harkens. It's like, I think to your point, it's like, I just really want to see what Charles and Eric are doing.
Well, yeah, the movie doesn't do superheroics very well because it doesn't feel that much like a superhero movie to me. I believe the director said something along the lines of, I got to do a James Bond movie and a political thriller in one film and a superhero movie at the same time. So much of it is spent with people talking and using their powers for things besides just throwing punches or whatever. And I like that a lot because to me, that is way more the X-Men that I am more and more interested in is the soap opera of the X-Men, not just the who fights who.
Yeah, and I don't want to see fight sequences all the time.
Because honestly, they don't look that great. Like seeing Zoe Kravitz flying through the air, she looks like a fucking cartoon.
She's so young.
She is, but she looks like a cartoon, and it's such a dumb power.
The wings are weird. They look they look mega cartoony.
Not only do they look cartoon, but it's like, so why is it that you have a tattoo that comes to life? Why not just have the wings? She has a tattoo of wings on her back, and then they become real wings. Did she get the tattoo and her power is to make the tattoo into wings? Or was she born with a tattoo that for some reason also becomes wings? It's so dumb. It's fucking dumb. Like many of the powers that are on display in the younger mutants, I would say. Dumb. Although, man, there's so much to say about them too. I know we can't just wrap up one thing because it's all connected here, but I agree with you. That beach scene, there's a lot that doesn't work for me. And the kids' involvement overall, I know that this was like a have to do sort of thing where it's like, Charles is saying, I don't want to send them into battle, but what choice do we have at this point?
So we got to prep them.
And they want to be, Also, I didn't realize this when I originally watched it. I guess I just missed this line. They trained for a week. Mystique says, after all we've done this week, you're not going to let us go do blah, blah, blah. That's right before they go to battle.
Oh, God.
So
Okay.
And that makes sense also because
is this week or a full week?
They're ill prepared for what they're going to meet.
Yeah.
And that makes sense that the first X-Men, mission is a bit of a disaster. Xavier.
And she brings that up in the third film when she talks about the first time we went on this, blah,
right.
blah, blah, blah.
But it's like, it's so dumb that they've made all that headway in 1 week. All the shit that they have done.
Yelling guy is not. He's totally fine. He's totally fine. We got him a wingsuit. He's fine.
There's a bunch of there's a bunch going on there. That's they ran. I mean, the mistakes I was talking about that they make over and over again. It's happening on both sides. Good guys, bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
Too many characters. Too many characters. You need. I mean, I'm just gonna say, if you have to strike up numbers here. 3 villains at most, main bad guy, 2 backups, and then like 7 characters of good guys at most. At most,
I would even say I would like just 2 core villains.
Well, I would rather, but I mean, if you got to have like a strong, a smart, and a fast or something like that, whatever, then that's cool. But the some kind of triumvirate there. But yeah, it's too many characters. Like Sebastian Shaw. As a villain, like I like the way that Kevin Bacon, he chews scenery and all that business. Like he has a good menacing presence. I have no idea why he is the way he is.
Yeah.
He's another Dr. Doom, Skeletor.
Just wants to watch the fucking world burn because he can.
And it's like, but all of those people, he is not charismatic enough. Like if you're going to make the Heath Ledger Joker reference.
Yeah.
He is not charismatic enough to sell me on him just being chaotic bad.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you just like to do bad things.
Yeah.
You're not interesting enough for me to accept that.
I'm glad you brought him back up because I have one question about this guy.
Yes.
What the fuck is his actual power? I was so confused.
In the comics, Sebastian Shaw's power is relatively simple and a pretty smart little twist.
Okay.
He turns kinetic energy, and maybe some other kinds of energy too, but the idea of kinetic energy, you get hit into physical strength and physical invulnerability. His mutant ability is basically keep hitting me. I'll only get stronger.
Okay.
And it's great because it's this shirtless weirdo battling Colossus and beating the shit out of him.
He looks kind of swarthy from the comic photos I saw of him. I was like, you kind of look like a handsome pirate.
We can. There's a lot of reasons why that was. That I think on an episode where we go over some of the weirdness of the X-Men comics, I'll get into why that is. But those are his comics powers. Basically, absorb energy to be strong and powerful.
Okay.
But in the movie, he seems to be able to redirect it outwardly, which that's fine. I like the way that they visualized how he's kind of he's moving so fast that there's a bunch of him at once. What it looks like. That's a cool image. But the whole thing where he would create a little ping pong ball of energy and then drop it in a guy's mouth, that just seems like something you just wrote in a dream. Just somebody said, here's a way to do a power. I don't know, fucking deliver it this way. That shit. I'm a fan of things not always being down to a science.
Yeah.
But he goes out of his way to explain his power to the general that he ends up killing. The guy throws but he doesn't. The way he explains it is just kind of so I'm going to go far enough to cover our asses, but I won't explain how it is that absorbing energy allows me to give you the fucking golf ball of death that I'm about to pop into your brain or whatever. That's shit. I wasn't a fan of that. And again, it doesn't have to be the way he is in the comics, but it felt inconsistent. It felt like they were having him do whatever they wanted him to do in a moment.
Emma Frost. First of all, I got to say January Jones is a babe. I got a soft spot for her. I loved Mad Men. Emma Frost, her powers.
Well, so January Jones, I agree. Firstly, yes, she looks great. She
doesn't get to do much.
She doesn't. She also just has a look on her face that's blank most of the time.
Agreed.
Okay, so this is to me almost the biggest crime of the first film. Only it's don't involve the character if you're not going to do that character justice. And again, you don't have to be the same as the comics, but make it better or just as good if you're not going to do it like the comics.
Yep.
In the comics, Emma Frost is a telepath originally.
So there's the mindy thing.
Yes, that's her original power.
Okay.
And she has always been, even though she would seem to be serving at the behest of, or at the pleasure, I guess, of Sebastian Shaw, she had her own things that she was planning on and became a huge thorn in the side of the X-Men for a while, but then eventually joined the X-Men and even trained a younger generation of mutants, ended up with Cyclops down the line, all these other things. But she has always been I'll use the term because I think she would too, queen bitch. She is the Ice Queen. She is always oh, darling, that dress looks so good on you. It definitely hides the fold. molds, that kind of thing. Like she's the Devil Wears Prada as a mutant. Eventually, in one of my very favorite, probably aside from the original Chris Claremont run, the next run on the book that is my favorite would be Grant Morrison, who wrote The Invisibles. And he had the idea, they've had secondary mutations sometimes in the comics. She developed a secondary mutation, which is her turning into organic diamond, like Colossus turns into organic metal, which she does in this film. While she's doing that, she has no telepathic powers.
Yes.
She also can't be reached telepathically. It's her icing up, basically like shutting the world out.
I knew the telepath piece because clearly she's sitting there and this guy thinks he's nailing
and that's
her.
That's a good use. That is something that Emma Frost would do. She would sit there and she uses her sexuality as a weapon. She would know, like, she would be a great, if we're going to keep like comparing character to character, like Magneto is the Wolverine of this film, she would have been a great Mystique of this film in that instead that she works in the shadows somewhat, and that she uses her sexuality as she's a femme fatale, but she is aware of it.
Yeah.
Like she is like knowingly playing into this role. And so that she would feign having sex with this guy by, telepathically inducing that, which totally makes sense because she would do all that shit and then be sitting there drinking white wine.
It sitting her, she's just sitting on this chair and this guy's like, ooh.
No, it's a great idea.
So great.
Yeah, he's so it's just this Russian dude. But she lacks any charisma. Every line is delivered like it's at gunpoint.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if she didn't want to do the movie. Don't fucking do them. I don't know if that's what it is.
Yeah.
Or if someone told her.
I want you to be like this.
Maybe that's her version of what like an ice queen would be, but she doesn't seem to have any agency. And I'm not saying the script does her any favors either, but I like the way that, because they don't write a lot for her to do.
Yeah.
She is just doing what Sebastian Shaw says. Yeah. But man, and the fact, later they say that she died, which I mean, if that's the version we're going to get, fine, kill her off. But I wish that they had done either don't include her or do better, because what you did, you just needed somebody who had telepathy.
Yeah.
And so you used her.
She's such a cool character.
She's a fucking great character. Seriously, she's so great. I hope that in the future, whatever happens with the X-Men, that she gets her time, because she's so salaciously, she's not even evil, but it's like her way of getting over on people.
Yeah.
Like she will call you darling and be stabbing you at the same time, and probably actually kind of like you too.
Yeah.
So I mean, I love. She's super smart, and that was a big loss
letdown,
for me. Yeah, but I mean, you could have just had her, Sebastian Shaw, and like one of these. I mean, man, the other guys that they're running with are a fucking couple of spares.
We call those filler queens.
One of them doesn't even have a line.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't he? The Riptide or whatever, the guy who creates cyclones. Who cares?
What are you doing
He's just
there, buddy?
a power. He's just a power.
What you doing there?
And then the other guy has Azazel was his name. The red
Devil
Nightcrawler, the devil. He has a dumb history in the comics. He is a more recent character. I mean, you could have used him. I find, but like all he does.
Like, look at the past ones. I'm like, Magneto. Oh, here's Pyro.
Yeah, they've never done a great job with the villains, and that seems to be the hardest thing to do in these movies. Because in Marvel, cinematic films, that's often the same issue that they run into. I will say that with him, with Azazel, like I liked when he was just teleporting people into the sky and dropping them. That's awesome. A smart move.
Yeah.
So like there are some scenes where
and that power's dope as shit.
Oh yeah, of course. And that same scene is also one where you were talking about where it's like they were going to fight the younger mutants, the new X-Men that had
so silly.
And everything that involves that, there's some funny moments. Like there's these young mutants that have been brought together are hanging out at this, I guess, CIA, like holding room.
Yes.
And the interaction that they're supposed to have makes sense, that they're kids and they're going to discover what their powers are and, screw around or whatever. And it is a funny scene when they've like broken the window and everything's on fire and all the shit is bad. And they come over. The thing that just made me laugh so hard is that they're listening to, I don't know, the Hippie Hippie Shake or something like that. They're listening to some old song. But then all Mystique is doing is just dancing on the couch, like doing the hot potato or something like that, or the mashed potato.
The mashed potato.
And it's like, it's just something a kid would do. Just like, you know what, I'm just going to dance
look
now.
Look at these dumb kids.
Yes, but I don't care about them. I care very little about them because, again, so few, we don't really get to know any of them that well.
The guy I thought was the most interesting was the one that died.
Well, Darwin, he has an interesting power for sure.
Yeah, I was like, what is going on?
Also, if he can adapt to any situation, why did that kill him?
I know, I did clock that a little bit, but I was like, I'm going to let it go. Okay.
I guess, but I mean, just fucking kill somebody else. Like, probably.
Freaky guy.
Well, here's the thing. Banshee.
Thank you.
In the movie, his use of his power makes me crack up because it's just a man falling and screaming.
It's screaming.
just like, and flying from it. And in the comics, he's an older man who was like he's like an Irish beat cop who has also been, it's cool shit, but like.
Interesting. Way more interesting.
He's been in the X-Men. Well, here's the, I mean, they weren't going to bring in a not young person to do the part. But I will say that kid who played him, that actor, has something about him. He seemed to be an old Irish cop in the body of a
youth.
As a 16-year-old Irish kid, because there's something about his face, like he looks world weary, and the way he talked, like he had the most personality without saying much. I liked him the most, and I looked the kid up, and he was in like 3 movies that were all Academy Award nominees or something like that last year. Like not him himself, but the movies he made appearances in. So I'd like to see. I wish I would have seen more of him, because that character has some cool uses of that power.
I think that guy is like, this is going to sound hilarious, but I think that guy is kind of a real actor, if you know what I mean by that.
That's what I'm saying.
Like I'm decently sure it was more of the screechiness that was making me laugh.
That shit was very funny, and they were played for laughs sometimes, but it just seemed like not even the way it would go.
I liked the one where he first tried it.
That was right, because it's just and then he falls out the window. They set up these kids in the second film. All but 2 of them have died, probably. It just seems like, I mean, none of them are well established. They are just brought together because they're X-Men we haven't used yet. And none of them fucking matter. I mean, it's such a waste, and they didn't make me care about anybody. And there's too many people to go into why I should care about them. Most people end up being their powers.
Yeah.
And there's Beast. Is a big deal for me.
You don't like young Hank?
No.
Oh, you don't?
Oh, God, no.
Oh,
no.
Oh, no.
For starters, I understand that he, even Kelsey Grammer wasn't born Kelsey Grammer. He wasn't born coming out like talking like Sideshow Bob.
Not
probably.
being Frasier.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's fine. He doesn't have to be that. I see none of the charm at all.
Yeah, in fact, I would say he's young and awkward.
He's young and awkward, but there's not even like the little moments where he would quote something. I don't remember him quoting any literature.
No, I don't think he did at all. And that's like a big deal in the comics, in the fucking cartoon.
And that's something, as a young nerd, you would start that early in life, I think. And you would see. So he's just played as a more typical nerd, which, okay, whatever.
Well, he just seems like a smart guy.
He's just a smart guy. He doesn't have a lot of personality except for being meek, which is not a version of Beast. It's hard for me to accept, because it seems like the Beast has had even though he struggled with, in the comics at least, how he's looked at times, he has some of the best self-love amongst mutants, it seems like sometimes, or at least that's how he comes across. And maybe he covers up some of that with his joking around and these things. But all I see here is just, oh, hey, I'm wearing a lab coat and I got dicks for feet. Old dick feet. Old dick feet is what I kept calling, because it's funny that that's the only thing that they chose to make different about him. Like, even his leg muscles looked normal. It's just that his feet,
goofy feet,
looked like 5 dicks each. 5 veiny, hairy ass dicks on each foot. It was disgusting. It was fucking disgusting.
Dick feet.
I mean, oh man, it was terrible. And then ultimately, when he changes into the blue version of him, I thought he was adorable. I wanted to pet. I wanted to kiss him right on his fuzzy little head.
Come here, Bubba.
But like, he looked ridiculous. I will say, frankly, he looked better than he did in the following films. In the following films, the next 2, he looks like shit. He looks like the Wolfman from 1950. Seriously, he's walking around in an orange suit.
That face.
But this, he looked fake, but it was better.
God, I'm never gonna not see dick feet now. Thank you for that.
Well, you know what choice did they leave me? They left me no choice but that. But the thing with him and Mystique, there's, like that. Mystique is already dealing with because Mystique, I mean, we've kind of avoided her to this point, but
oh yeah, I didn't mean to, J-Law. I love J-Law, but I think I agree with you. I think she was just kind of checked out.
I mean, it's interesting because she took this, as I understand, as I read, she took this particular role because she thought it would just be like a lighter thing, I think, after Winter's Bone.
Yeah.
And
heavy fucking movie, in case you haven't seen it.
No, I haven't. And I know this is...
Get ready for sadness.
Yeah. I know this is lighter, sure, but it's not like you're signing on for potentially a franchise.
Yeah.
And so I know it's a bitch to get into the fucking makeup, but don't take the contract. If it's, I don't know. Maybe,
it's weird because it's not that she's like phoning it in.
No.
There's like that piece that's just kind of missing. Mm-hmm. And I think it's especially frustrating when you see somebody like that and you know they're a good actor and you're like, but do that thing.
Yeah. They also don't, her character arc is maybe the most all over the place. Right next to Magneto.
Yeah.
Because in this, for starters, she can't decide if Professor Xavier is her brother or her boyfriend.
Yep.
She doesn't know which one.
No,
and that's confusing for him, too, I think. There are moments where she's just like, don't bully me. And then, like, don't tell me what to do, Dad. And then the next moment, she's got her arms around his arm in a way that siblings don't do.
Yeah.
At least this side of the Mississippi. Yeah. So, and again, they're not siblings. I mean, they could go do whatever they want. But the point being that relationship, and I know that maybe that is how some like friendships, it's hard if there are romantic feelings and stuff. They don't go way deep into that, but it's just a weird thing.
It is weird.
It's weird. What was her life before he found her as a child?
I don't know. Running around looking for scraps.
She's a changeling in the woods.
A puppy that doesn't have a home. She
was very puppy-like. She looked, okay, aside from her character, which I would like to discuss, I must address, one, her makeup gets better through the movies.
Yes.
As Mystique.
Yes.
They did not do her any favors in this movie with the makeup. Because her hairline is like both too low, it's too high, and it's a widow's peak, so it's like accentuating five head that she doesn't have. I mean, she's like, all of this, guys, don't worry.
She's a babe.
No worries. But she, as Mystique, just looks weird. Like the prosthetics were too much.
Yeah.
And she just looks kind of like dead in the face.
The hair is what
the hair is very bad.
Yeah.
But her character arc in this, I'm fine with the idea, I guess. I'm behind the idea of it, that she is stuck between these two men and worlds, basically.
Yes.
She is drawn to the passion that she always has to hide, that she can't be herself.
Yeah.
Her true self in front of anyone. And that's so part of her power. That has a lot of gravity, I think. She does. The Mystique we meet in the other movies, like, doesn't seem as smart as this Mystique.
Well, she suddenly is like, she's not as ballsy.
Well, and she's younger.
I mean, she is, but
she's not using sexual. Well, I mean, like, keeps using the phrase. She's not using her sexuality a lot as a weapon.
Yeah.
She does do the thing with Magneto where she shows up in his room and is laying in his bed.
Yeah.
And that's her kind of doing I don't know, like a younger person would suddenly be bold, and be like, I'm going to go out on a limb here because I think you're into this.
And I have hormones, damn it.
Exactly. So it is hard for me to see that Mystique that we see in these movies becoming the Mystique that's basically a henchman that has few lines in the other films.
Is only concerned with killing people.
Yes.
Like, literally gives no fucks.
And they try to say, after she kills somebody in the second movie, that's what sets her down the path, that only Mystique is left. I just don't.
I didn't believe it.
There was just not enough depth and no disrespect meant to Rebecca Romijn. It's just how she was written in those movies.
Yeah.
She was basically a killing machine that supported mutant supremacy 100% and seemed to have no qualms or anything else about it.
She didn't give any
and
fuck.
Didn't have any real much depth, I would say. And that's it's not that they can't be the same person, but man, does she not seem aimed on that trajectory.
Is a great
very
way to
much
put
a
it.
henchman. She's a secret agent.
But I would say overall, this movie, I did not hate it whatsoever.
I know I have a lot of complaints, but I really enjoyed it.
Me too. I like
like
this movie better than any of the previous three.
I probably do too. It is kind of like watching an Adam West Batman sometimes, or like an Austin Powers movie because of the heightened level of the 60s-ness of it. But
Emma Frost reminded me of the fembot thing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and also,
titties.
We didn't talk about Moira McTaggart, the CIA agent played by Rose Byrne.
Rose Byrne, again, mega babe.
Absolutely.
Mega babe.
The character, I like, they've repurposed her from the comics, and that's fine.
I liked Moira in the cartoon. So I already have kind of like this weird, like, I just think her character's interesting.
I had a crush on her in the comics, just for whatever reason. But it's funny. It's a dumb continuity thing, but it's one of them that pops up, and it's just annoying because it's like, well, you are holding all these other things to be sacrosanct.
Yep.
Moira McTaggart showed up in X-Men 3. And as a scientist who was working on a way to, like, transfer unconscious minds from bodies, not to say that as a CIA agent, she
wouldn't have done
be that. But she also would be considerably older, I think, than that woman was.
Yeah,
in 2000, or in the near future is when those films were set. So it's
and he even makes a joke. He's like, "Oh my God, she doesn't."
Well, in the third movie, and they try to make her look a little bit older, but like we're talking in like that was set in 92 in Apocalypse when he says that.
Oh,
the other films are set in the near future of 2005. So. All that you can look, any of it can be explained away.
That's a bit of time.
But why do that? Why, except to jerk off the comic book fans that like the name and are aware of it. But it's like, you're not even, I mean, just, I don't know. It bothers me that they want so badly to hold to these things and yet they don't.
Yeah.
And they seem to, I don't know, they don't know what they want.
Please? Can you pick one?
The final dumb complaint I want to set down.
I'm ready.
Because I'm happy to see Wolverine anytime he pops up. And it was cute what they did with him, that they went to go try to get him and he's just in a bar hanging out and recruit him and he says, fuck off. Or whatever, go fuck yourself, whatever it was. If they have knowledge of how powerful the mutants they're going after are, and they seem to, they're like, he has the power to do this. They know that Wolverine is one of the more powerful mutants in the world, and they're coming up on like World War III potentially if this doesn't happen. I would think they would try a second harder. Time because they literally walk in, walk out. It's like it's the Grandpa Simpson walking into the whorehouse or the bordello and then just doing the U-turn. Like it's just him doing that, and that moment they might as well be playing like Benny Hill music under that whole training thing. Yeah, we're forgetting that. We're trying to stop the end of the world, but we're gonna have fun in the meantime. Yeah, they have a lot of like heavy shit right next to some really silly stuff. And so again, that's funny. I want to see him there. I'm fine that they did, but it's like, if you want me to buy this,
do a little better.
Have him in for a little bit longer because I don't believe that you two would just walk out after like a human killing machine.
Well, he said no.
Oh, he said to go fuck yourself. I don't want to bother him. It's like,
we gotta go.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're moving into Days of Future Past land.
2014.
Here we are in 2014.
I gotta set this up with my mom really likes all these guys. Hugh Jackman, Fassbender, what's his face that's Professor X? I can't remember his name right now. James McAvoy. And I do too, obviously. Like she has crushes on all these guys. So when they came out with this film, exactly. And it's like Wolverine, I mean, Hugh Jackman's only getting more ripped every time he comes on screen.
He's just more of a giant.
It's great. It's lovely. And so that's not the only reason. She had seen First Class. She had seen the other X-Men and she liked it. She liked the setting and stuff like that. So her and my aunt, Nanny, who are in their 70s.
Oh, I love this already.
They said they want to go see Days of Future Past in the theater and they want me to take them. And I said, you goddamn believe I will.
You betcha.
And if you have any questions afterwards, you better believe I'll answer them for you happily. And so I went and saw this film.
Ooh, there's a lot of shirtless. There's some shirtless Wolverine.
Oh yeah, there's a lot
of
beef for you. Woo, it's like a Coulter's barbecue in there.
Coulter's barbecue.
So that was how I experienced this film originally, was in the theater. And
with your mom
flanked
and your aunt.
by two of the matriarchs of my life, two of the best ladies in my life.
I love that so much.
It was great. And
what a good memory.
It is a really good memory. I'm glad we did that. It is based on Days of Future Past, 2 issues of X-Men comics.
Okay.
It is a very famous comic story. It is kind of the Terminator of, X-Men and comic stories. It was probably the first that I can think of its kind that was like we got to go back to save the world from this apocalyptic future that sucks so much.
Yeah.
Now it's been done a billion times and certainly a lot in the X-Men. But yeah, there's 2 issues out there that are Days of Future Past that this is based on, and the whole movie does a lot of bending over backwards to try to make things happen a certain way. Mm-hmm. Some of that's due to their own continuity. Some of that is to try to match a few things that happened in the original story. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking specifically of Kitty Pryde developing this other power.
Yeah,
she says it's phasing. She says it's basically like what happens
mental phasing or some shit.
It's temporal phasing where she sends your mind back through the past. In the original comic, and I'd rather get into more of this on another episode, but just what they're trying to do is mirror the fact that in the comic originally, it was that they sent older Kitty Pryde's mind back in time to younger Kitty Pryde. And it was a future daughter of like Jean Grey and Cyclops that did that because she has amazing telepathy.
Okay.
So in the comics, that made a lot more sense.
That's kind of interesting.
It was great. And here it makes less. And I'm happy with the way it turned out. Like I would rather Wolverine be there than not.
Amen.
It's brother. I will say it's just them shoehorning in their cash cow again, but why wouldn't you? And of course.
And at least, man, he just doesn't disappoint.
No, he's always great. He's great.
Even in those dumb movies, that was the one thing that was nice because I did also enjoy this movie.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, they all have their issues, but again, I just keep going back to that. I just overall enjoyed all of these a lot more.
Yes.
But in this one specifically, like you said, he's shoehorning in their cash cow.
Big time.
But damn, he is just so good at being Wolverine.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, Hugh Jackman, just like he really does.
He gets it. Since the last time we had talked, I've been rereading a bunch of old like Chris Claremont X-Men comics and just am struck by really what it is just that the spirit of the character, as I understand it, to be like the most pure version of Wolverine
is legit there.
He is doing it because in this movie, he gets to be a guy who says, fuck it. He gets to be a guy who says, I'll take charge. He gets to be a guy who says, I'm not a part of a team. I shouldn't be the one to do this. He gets to be the guy who mentors his own mentor.
Yeah,
which
is awesome.
That, like how he is encouraging young Charles Xavier to continue on, and the whole moment where, and it's kind of like convoluted, but I am happy to have it be convoluted for young Xavier to experience Wolverine's he's basically talking to Xavier.
Oh, I fucking love that scene.
Old Xavier. So you've got Patrick Stewart, old, Xavier in the future, older, mentor. Well, here's the thing. I don't think it's actually his mind. What I think it is young Charles Xavier is being invited into Wolverine's mind to experience the idea of Charles Xavier, what he becomes.
Yeah.
And
we're just for the listeners at home, we're making lots of weird hand gestures.
I'm pointing every
we're
direction.
Everywhere.
Yes. That's how I interpreted that. I don't think that he's actually making a mind connection with himself in the future.
Yeah, no.
I don't think so. But that moment is very beautiful because it's someone, Charles is doubting himself and he's lost his way. And then to receive, like that Wolverine says, you know what, they sent back the wrong guy, he says, literally. Mm-hmm. They wanted to send Charles, but he wouldn't be able to physically survive. I don't know why that's a problem because it's a mental issue. But
something about the healing.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have Wolverine. But that was a beautiful moment. And then any of the times where Wolverine is talking to Magneto or Charles kind of about things that will happen and how things turn out, he never tries to change who they are.
No.
He advises them, but he also is just like, yeah, you're a problem in the future. And it's just a lot of this old man knowingness, that is so charming. Wolverine has the best of all the things because he gets to be a curmudgeon, which is always fun. Like, you kids doing this shit. But he also gets to be young and sexy and the rebel all at the same time.
Oh, yeah. That first when he wakes up in that bed with that chick.
Yeah.
And he just, annihilates those dudes. It's just like,
here we are. I'll just watch this all day. Yeah.
So why don't we break it up real quick let's do our thoughts in what is in this film referred to as the present day. So them in the dark future. And then let's dive into the past for that because that's where the majority is. So how did you, I don't know if I fully love the execution, but I kind of like the concept. Like, okay, we're using this guy, and he's able to take us back just long enough so we can warn this version of us that the Sentinels are going to be here, and they just essentially keep going in a...
That only exists... Here's my thing. I like the sequences with these future X-Men, even though we don't get to meet any of them.
Yeah.
But some of them are some of my favorite characters, even though we don't really get to do anything with them from the comics, and the fights are awesome.
Agreed.
All of the fights with the portals, the character's name is Blink.
Yes.
It reminds me of playing Portal on Xbox, but it's like where you're seeing through one thing, but you're seeing the perspective from another angle.
I loved it when I like especially the ones where the Sentinels are trying to do something at them, and then you see the hand go through the one and the other. Yeah,
it's a cool spatial thing that I could have even seen more of because it was so cool.
Very cool.
All of those future fights were cool. But I feel all of that thing where they're we're doing, I guess, heists almost to get supplies.
Time heist.
But we'll do it. And then if we die, I send this guy's brain, his mind back, however long to make it so that we know what's going to happen. That's so convoluted and so crazy. It's only set up that way so that we have now seen a version of what Kitty does with Wolverine, which it's not so convoluted that you needed to show me a version of it. You're going to do it anyway, and you're explaining it. But I feel like half of that, part of it's just showing this apocalyptic future, which definitely feels
fucking terrible.
Rough. I also have no idea, what has happened to the world, because it seems like all that's left are buildings and no land.
Yeah.
Everything is so high above sea level that you can see no land.
Everyone looks oppressed, so yes. I don't really know.
Well, ultimately, they end up saying, oh, God, where was it? They said they were somewhere in Moscow or something like that when it gave the title card at the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
But then what they're in is a Chinese
Great Wall
temple
kind of
or something.
Vibe.
Everything's I don't understand what these structures are if the oceans have gone because of all this. But whatever it is, I was very confused as to the space where we were, but it was very bleak and very oppressive. Yeah. And the Sentinels themselves, for all the CG, ness of them.
They were so cool as shit.
They were cool and they were very creepy.
Yeah.
Because they're faceless and the way that they absorb everyone's powers and that they turn into basically T-1000s, you know, and they seem kind of like they're swarming you and they'll find their way through a hole and all these things. Like they felt very invasive.
Oh yeah. And they felt, they really sucked the hope out of the room. It's like, okay, well, everyone's fucked now. Thank you.
Yes.
You know,
all the battles with them felt very tense to me.
Yeah.
Later on, when we're cutting back and forth between what's going on in the past and then the fight in the future to make sure that, you know, basically this Wolverine's thing isn't interrupted, not only was tense feeling, but they're doing these slow-mo deaths of like Colossus ripped in half. And for once, I felt really bad for the mutants. About the only other time that I've really felt really bad for them is when, I guess in X2, they have to evacuate the school because the agents have descended on the school, and it's just so unfair and unnecessary, and it's like these are children that you're coming after. But in this, it's like you are being hunted down for what you are and being taken apart by a machine. It's basically like if this is a roach motel or something like this, you're being exterminated, and the people are just dealing with it, but it's in slow-mo with this music playing, and it actually like really got to me. Yeah,
they're done.
It really, really hit. Yeah, it felt very heavy.
I did eye roll at Bobby. I'm not going to pretend.
Fuck him. Get him out of here.
Get him out of here. Get him out. He literally could have not been there, and it would have been absolutely fine.
No one would have cared.
Nobody.
Who's going to... What? Iceman? Write us, please. If you're an Iceman fan...
If you love Iceman,
please.
I would be happy to hear your argument.
I want to hear about it. But where were you? Did you write into this film saying, hey, if no one was there, if he wasn't there, would you have raised a ruckus? Yeah.
I liked the situation where it's nice to see Eric and Charles in the future being like, well, this is fucked. We clearly are bros again because this is fucked.
Well, and Magneto, the way he's talking, it seems like he is turned somewhat of a corner because he says something about all those years wasted fighting between the two of them, as if to say, like, you know, we've come to an agreement on how things should be done. I mean, also that could just be, you're right, it could just be a matter of, well, we came to an agreement because we don't even have to worry about humans anymore. It's just these fucking machines are on the loose.
These mega death machines.
Yeah, these giant robo monsters.
All right, so we ready to go back in the past.
We're going to go back in the past to, what is it, 1973 or 5, something in there. That's
we're going to go with the
area.
range.
Yes. Charles Xavier's situation is a load of bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
It is ridiculous.
You're just a fucking heroin addict.
And I like, on one hand, what they did with it is like, I was reminded very much of Eric Clapton, because Eric Clapton ended up on heroin, and he had, you know, like a meteoric rise in the 60s, and then in the 70s ended up kind of getting, you know, horse got the best of him. And he looks kind of like Eric Clapton with a scraggly beard and long hair. Xavier does in this. So on that hand, it felt like I was looking at the fall of a 60s pop star in a way.
Yeah.
On the other hand, his spine has been destroyed. And Beast gives him medicine that is addictive as well.
Yeah, he's like, gotta get your fix.
That makes him walk, but also gets rid of his powers.
How'd that work?
That was by committee. Like 10 people producers wrote down things that have to be in the movie, and someone said, I'll invent a serum for it. Oh, he needs to walk because we just need to see him walking more. He's not bald yet either. More walking. We need guys who can walk, please. Like it's so.
We don't have budget for that chair in this one.
They created this drama with him that already could have been there without all this sci-fi wrangling. Like,
yeah, I think he would have just been like fucked up on his own.
You could make him an alcohol if you want him to be so fucked that he's in the depths of depression and addiction. He can be that in a wheelchair.
He sure could.
And they're trying to set up a situation, I think, on a character arc where the Charles that we met in the first film was not the man he would become, obviously, but he largely was that guy. He was very altruistic, but he still had a lot of ego attached to what he did, even though he ultimately made choices that were not ego-based.
Yep.
In this film, it seems that he has chosen his ego at the beginning of it because he's just given into, fuck it, I'll just wallow in the depths of sorrow, which is still an egotistic move.
But at least I can walk.
And then when he chooses not to take the medicine so he can have his powers to save his friends and the world and everything, that's him doing an egoless thing. That's him transforming further into the Professor X we would meet. All of that is possible without giving him a science fiction heroin medicine from the Beast that
science fiction heroin
also makes the Beast able to not be either Dick Feet or Blue Fuzzy. Like I don't honestly, I would have rather him just not be Blue Fuzzy the entire film, because those scenes where he is in an orange suit and the blue fur, I know I said it.
Wolfman.
Literally looks like the Wolfman of Universal Monsters fame. It's awful. And the noises that it's making, it sounds like they flew in like the MGM lion, like roar or something. I mean, man, I don't love that portrayal of that character, and they weren't selling it to me with his inclusion in this.
No.
I feel like I know that guy has other acting gigs.
Yeah.
But you know what I said about Colossus in the last set of movies, where it feels like they cast somebody and they saddled themselves with a less than who should be a star actor?
Yeah.
It feels like that happened again here. But they had the option.
Yeah, you could do it.
To give it to somebody, or again, it's not all the actor's fault, I'm sure. But this guy, just to look at him, does not strike me as Hank McCoy.
Hey, Wolfman.
Yeah, he's a beanpole. He's a skinny dude. Beast was always like, even before he was, while he was Dick Feet, he was like a stout dude back in the day, you know? So
God, I'm never going to not laugh at Dick Feet.
Dick Feet's just good. Old Dick Feet. Old Dick Feet over here.
Feet.
Wolverine going to get them and everything, it just felt like so much created drama. Like drama created from unlikely things. I know mutants are unlikely, but you know what I mean. Like plot contrivances, character contrivances to, again, put the pieces where we want them to be.
Yeah.
And I didn't love that. Now, there's some cool things that came out of it.
Yeah.
And again, that arc for Xavier does make sense, but I don't need him to be walking around.
You didn't need to walk.
No, definitely
to make
not.
that point. That's for damn sure. One thing that I want to bring up, and this is something from my intranet research that people are a little torn on. I would be interested to hear your take on Quicksilver.
I enjoy him a lot.
Me fucking too.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that.
He's different from the comics. So what? He's
different from how he's portrayed in that one vertical in the Marvel film. You know, how he and Scarlet Witch or whatever.
Yeah, he got killed in the second Avengers movie. That's its own thing anyway. And he was kind of a jerk over there too. But no.
I really like this character.
He's great.
I loved it. I loved when they met him. I love all the shit that he's stolen and all this. He's just playing video games and whatever.
He shows up in the third movie too. And there's this quiet sadness about his character because he lives in the basement.
Yeah.
That it's even though he doesn't know yet that Magneto is his father, which is a whole nother fucking thing for me, there is something about him that's clearly neurotic, not normal, for lack of a better word. Mm-hmm. And that's very endearing because that's probably part of why he puts on, not only because he experiences the world differently, but I accept that he is quirky this way more because it seems like it's a result of maybe even him fronting, over. Also, it seems like he might just be comfortable with who he is. I don't know.
Totally.
But I like him a lot. I like him too, and I'm glad he shows up more.
I love the way they shot that stuff. I thought that was so fun.
That scene was a lot of fun. It's really cool. I wish there was a video game that was exactly that. It was just it's like Hitman, but 10 levels of just things that are slowly moving, and you have to adjust them.
You have to adjust them.
Yeah, until they do things. But that's a great scene.
And I love that they tie it to music because he's obviously very into it. And
I will say, if he's listening to music,
why isn't the music sped up?
Actually, why wouldn't it be slowed down? Because he's experiencing the world. He's moving so quickly that he experiences everything slowly. So I just accept that. Well,
that's for us.
That's just for us. But he always puts on the earphones. Like he's listening to music. He would have only listened to 5 seconds of music in that time.
Yeah.
And then he takes them off. It's maybe he listens to them. I don't know. I guess really fast. Is that what it has to be?
That shit is so fun though.
No, I am not going to stick by that.
When he does, because I love that it shows that he understands his power. He's very comfortable in those moments, but also that he still has those little levels of immaturity in the best way. When he sets the guy up to punch himself in the face and shit. Oh my God.
Yeah, there's so much personality in relatively little that he gets to do. I mean, he really just gets to do that scene. I don't, for the life of me, know why they don't take him on the rest of the mission.
Why the fuck not?
Because he's so far not proven to be unreliable, and he can do a lot of shit. Meanwhile, you're taking the guy who's just coming off of fake heroin and sci-fi heroin.
Heroin.
I don't know why. I mean, I guess it's that would ruin the plot we've already come up with.
Sci-fi heroin and Dick Feet are just too good of a duo.
No, I really like Quicksilver. Now, in the comics, yes, Quicksilver is Magneto's son.
Yes.
It's so weird to me. Look, I'm sure Magneto's had some drunken nights. And
just randomly bang this broad?
Yes, not to speak ill of this woman, but she's at home drinking in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
She seems like a woman scorned, obviously, because she's not happy about the relationship, as we find out.
She's got a pack-a-day habit.
Yes,
she's pissed.
she looks like this woman. And so it's like, how did Magneto, who speaks with this faux British, with a transatlantic accent, and comes from Auschwitz?
How
did he meet this woman who's living in the middle of Chicago or whatever it is? It's so fucking random. Like, and they never pay it off in any of the films, as I've read, even in Dark Phoenix. Like the whole fatherhood thing to him. So why do it even? Just let him be that way. And it's funny because Quicksilver has white hair. I assume maybe in this has possibly dyed it. Like he does, like his dad does when he gets to be 70 years old. Oh, okay. Like, just fucking write it out, because ultimately they don't do anything with it. That's the reason I don't want it there. And because the woman it just doesn't seem like, seriously, that was a rough night for Magneto.
Unless that altercation is what drove her to drink and stay at home and smoke in the house.
But man, I just don't know how he would get hooked up with a suburban lady.
Well, she wasn't a mom. Sorry, she must be a suburban
lady of some kind. Yeah, But yes, I do. I love.
That makes me so happy, because I was like, oh, please don't.
No. Just do it. Just do it.
Fun.
Do it good. It's like,
and I thought it was done so well.
It's the whole Emma Frost thing. You don't have to do her the exact same way, but do it good.
That's what she deserved.
Yeah.
Emma Frost deserved being Quicksilver.
Yes, she deserved a Quicksilver.
Let's get into Trask. How we feel about Dinglebot?
Okay, well, firstly, of all the names you should not keep from the comics, Bolivar Trask is like a garbage heap of a name.
Yeah, I called him Oliver Trask just because Bolivar is so silly.
Oliver Trask would be so much better already.
Bolivar is so silly.
Bolivar, I don't even know what it's like. A Prussian name or something. What the fuck is this name?
Yeah, it's goofy.
It is ridiculous that they kept that name from the comics.
Silly magnitude at the height.
Absolutely 100. So my issues. I don't understand why he does what he does.
Yeah, why do you fucking hate
the main
them so
thing.
much?
Why is he so afraid of mutants? Why are you so calm in all situations? Why do you pretty much not show emotion all the time?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to an extent, but when it never feels like it's connected to anything.
That's what I was like.
It just feels like lazy
did your mom
acting.
Die? Did somebody take something from you?
It just feels lazy.
Yeah.
And I want to say that he maybe commented in an article or in an interview or something, the actor did, why this character was that way, but that's cool.
The movie sure didn't tell us.
That interview is not part of my
canon.
film. It's just like the first time he comes up, you show it in a little square at the side of the screen, him interviewed.
Peter Dinklage says,
I mean, man, he is just there to be the person that Mystique is trying to kill, and the person who invented Sentinels.
Yep.
Which all you had to do is read a sci-fi book and say, okay, well, I'll make those, because it's just big machines, just big robots.
It's a giant machine that won't fire on humans.
Okay, well, here's the thing. The multiple times, he's showing off to like a group of people.
Yes, and he's got the remote.
The little remote thing that like tells when there's a mutant present.
Beep, 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 beep.
It looks like a Glade plug-in. Like, seriously, it's just this little white thing.
I thought it looked like a fan remote.
Yes.
You know, when fans started getting remotes, I was like, oh, okay, it's getting a little warm. Sorry, let me turn this on.
It is such a perfectly 1975 piece of technology, but nothing else is. So it stands out as silly.
And I think it's funny that the Sentinels at that point in time, they look kind of like a bird.
They do. Well, I'm not
a birdie bit.
I'm not against them being more agile or even having these weird mannerisms. But one, we barely see them at play. Two, we never really see them at play except for being controlled by Magneto.
Mm-hmm.
Three, why were these not around in the first set of movies at all?
Where are these?
Well, no, because because Bolivar Trask had already invented them before he was killed.
Yes.
And then
he was trying to get funding.
And then what happened with him, Mystique killing him in the movie, is that they shoot her and get her, DNA, and then she goes on her path, and then ultimately, way down the line, it leads to these Sentinels that do all this other shit. Somehow in 30 years, they don't change, though. And apparently in the other movies, they're not there at all. The Sentinels have gone away.
Yeah.
Again, I'm fine with all of this if you just don't tell me that this is the same past to the future of the first three movies we saw.
Yeah, that's fine.
They want to stick so close to the original three movies for continuity until they don't. And then they don't. But the Sentinels thing, I wish that they would have been more threatening and at least gotten to show how threatening they are, or they should be. I think it's very funny that he's proposing giant robots to the government, and when we first meet him, the government's just like, "No, I don't know why we would need those.
I don't think we need that.
I don't think we need that. Thank you."
Hi, I've got giant robots if you'd like to fund
for sale
them.
if you want them.
Wolverine this is pre-adamantium.
Which leads to some cool moments where it's funny moments too, where he's like, he walks through the metal detector. And it's funny because I had forgotten at that point.
I did too.
And I was like, oh, it's going to go off. And then it doesn't. He looks around like, how did I get through this thing? I like the moment
where he's like, tries to do it and it's usually really fast. And he's like.
And they kind of just come out like.
Okay, well, this is taking a fucking long time.
Yeah, limply coming out of his hands.
His face is so good. It's like.
There's a weird. At the end, when we see the past again, after all this shit has happened.
Yes.
And it seems that's where the timeline now changes. And then the future will be different from how it was, obviously, because it leads to a completely different future time than what we just had. Wolverine is thrown into the river and found underwater by Stryker, who is the guy who, in this continuity, bonded adamantium to him in the first place.
Yes.
However, Stryker is not Stryker in that scene. At the end, Stryker basically looks up at the camera and his eyes flash yellow because it's Mystique.
Oh, that's true.
So
is this like you're trying to get Logan because you don't want him to be hurt, I guess?
I guess, but here's the thing. At first you think, okay, Stryker's going to get Wolverine and now he's going to go get adamantium and blah, we're
here, we're good. We're back on the path.
That shit's going to happen. It seems like what they're hinting is Mystique saves Wolverine from that very fate. That she gets him out of even though that's how he would have been discovered. Yep. But since she's now taken Stryker's place, she is going to make sure that doesn't happen to him.
Yeah.
Therefore, Wolverine doesn't have adamantium in the future.
Therefore, Wolverine's not fucking Wolverine anymore.
No, and that's its own thing. And there's nothing that really contradicts that in the future.
Can we talk about how fucked up that was when all the metal threw him and everything?
It was rough.
Was terrible.
It was fucking rough. He got real beat up and then drowned. But I mean, he can come back from that. But it just seems like
terrible.
It just seems like they had already shot the scene and they said, ooh, we got to throw in some other kind of twist, regardless of the logic. Because no, it doesn't mean he couldn't have gotten adamantium later. But now what you're telling me then is that
do it or don't do it.
He got picked up by somebody who looks like the guy that would eventually give him adamantium, but didn't.
Because
the way he would have, because it's just so fucking it was just like a boom, like a little last moment thing. It wasn't even
necessary.
No, not at all.
Not
necessary. Just make me think that's how he got adamantium now. So Magneto in this movie,
Eric.
That's why we got to get Quicksilver. For starters, as much as I love Fassbender as Magneto, and I am glad that I get to see him perform, certainly by the third movie, and even in this, his character shouldn't be there, I don't think.
I agree.
I know we want to see him, and it's like Wolverine, it's like I can argue for reasons, but maybe powers-wise.
That's what I was going to say, maybe because they need that power for something.
There's other mutants in the world. They don't have to use him. I mean, I know they busted him out because they're going after Mystique.
Yeah.
I'll accept it because I like the guy.
Yeah.
But man, does it just feel like they are going to the same well over and over and over, and to make Mystique such the focus because we got it.
And again, spoiler alert, he's going to fuck you over, Charles.
Yes. Oh, absolutely he does.
He's
just
coming.
fucking. Yeah, and I mean, and he hasn't really said he won't either.
Yeah.
Like all he's said is like, I mean, he does this whole, lifting the. It's a cool. I love seeing him do his powers like that.
Yeah.
Like really take
when he
it
picks
to
up the stadium.
Yes, he takes it to the max in this one, and that's cool. And then at the end, he says, like when he's been defeated, he says, they'll kill me. They'll kill me if they find me, and Professor Xavier lets him go, which I actually don't think he wouldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
I think he loves the man enough that he might let him go.
Mm-hmm.
But for what happens in the third film, we'll get to that.
Oh.
That makes no sense with what happens at the end of this film because Magneto has not learned a lesson. He got shot through the neck by Mystique.
Yeah.
I like seeing all of his interactions. He does great. The actor does. But it just seems like we want some more of that sweet Eric and Charles, arguing about morals and how the world works.
Yep.
And it's great when they do, but that's the only reason he's there.
Yeah.
And because Fassbender's a known, a great, everyone wants to go see him. J-Law is Mystique. Mystique did play, was a big linchpin in the original comic story. Mm-hmm. And she was in the first movie, and she's an Oscar winner now. Yeah. So bring her back. But man, and I do like that she is more physical, as she would be in the original movies. Uh-huh. She is at least physically becoming more Rebecca Romijn's version of the character. This athletic kind of secret agent type.
Yeah.
Makeup looks better. Like I remember she's
considerably better.
Oh yeah, way better. Like she looks like herself in the face, but with this, turned. So that's nice and everything, but like I am already so tired of her and the character and these other guys. And then that they show up again, not only for the next movie we're going to talk about, but in Dark Phoenix again.
Oh, God.
All the same shit. Just playing out over and over. They're in love with the same. I don't know if it was Bryan Singer that was just loving these characters so much, these particular ones.
He was into it.
I guess. The future, the way that it's fixed, I wasn't seeing that coming. And I did enjoy it, or when I originally saw it. That the future got fixed and that we get to see that.
Yes.
That it's a completely different future that's like, everybody's still alive that would have died and all these cameos that happen.
Oh my God.
That's
when
how
Wolverine
you
gets to see Jean.
It's very telling and funny to me that in this nice future, this is like the best of all possible worlds.
Yeah.
Logan and Cyclops apparently still have the exact same relationship they did in X1.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, hey, hands off my girl, dude. Like, that's the best they can do, is they remind us to hate Cyclops and that Jean really should be with Wolverine.
Yeah.
And that's all they have to say about it.
And you're like, oh, yeah, no, we remember. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I remember that you hate him, and therefore I have to hate him, too.
Yeah, we also don't. We still don't like him.
I would love to see a good adult Cyclops. I don't mean erotic, although I'm not against it, but a good full-grown Cyclops. Oh yeah, there's plenty of those out there. Naked Cyclopses. But I ultimately was glad that, and I felt like that could have just been the end of it.
Yeah.
What happens, I mean, not only did this film not have to exist, although, frankly, I'm glad it did.
Me too.
It's fun.
Me too. It was fun.
And it's very weird.
Fun but messy.
Fun but messy is exactly right.
So apocalypse.
Apocalypse.
Okay.
A whole apocalypse.
Where do I want to start this? Okay.
We're going to start in 2016.
Starting here in 2016. The opening scene is so hilariously silly.
I know.
There's so much power, and there's guys on fire, and there's all, like, oh my God. It's like they were like hyper mega mutants.
Yeah, it's very high stakes, I guess, powers-wise.
Yeah.
Everything that's happening is comics level bullshit where it's just like lightning bolts from hands and all kinds of shit that's happening so fast. And I know the idea is that, well, Apocalypse hangs with only the most powerful and all that.
And he's essentially becoming a culmination of all their shit.
Well, yeah, because over time he'll transfer his consciousness from his body to another one.
And he's just collecting powers
along the way. And he's collecting those
powers
along the way. But the character doesn't work ultimately as being a threat or threatening presence. So all of this 5 minutes or whatever that they're using to build up all the madness that was going on then and how he was overlord and all these things, it does not make him into a Emperor Palpatine-like character or anything like that.
No, because we don't see him do fucking anything.
No, we just see it's just a cold open that should be a minute long, and it's the beginning of the newest NCIS or something like that. Well, just because it's like, it's intentionally not telling you what's going on, which is fine. I mean, that's the cold open intention, but it's not interesting. It looks like a video game. A lot of this, like anything where there's superhero shit going on.
The flamey people definitely look like video games.
Everything feels like it's weightless. Everything in the pyramid is, I bet a lot of that wasn't even a set. And
the woman like holding the shit up just to get him.
Yeah.
Like,
when again, like these are not powers. These are powers mostly that we've seen before, but it's so much at once. It doesn't do anything to ground the movie. In fact, it does the complete opposite. You start off in another time with characters you don't know, doing crazy things. It feels like, again, like I'm watching, Gods of Egypt or something, or playing Assassin's Creed or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Like just crazy shit happening, and then we're done.
And that's the thing, like, I wanted to like it. I was like, I think this could be cool to go back in time and see something like the origin of some of these things, but it's just so apeshit. Like you said, there's too much going on. We don't know who any of you are. Look at all these things. Look at the chaos. Oh, okay.
I knew what was basically going on to some extent because I know about the character from the comics, that he had this connection to ancient Egypt and all this. But I, as a viewer who didn't know any of that, I would imagine it could be more, why aren't the X-Men here? Or why is there nothing that's related to, as far as I know, mutants?
No connection
going on the screen. Like, and it doesn't even manage to tap into the whole mutant idea of we're hunted, we're feared, or anything like that. And if it just would have done one of these things, I'm not saying it has to do all of it.
Anything.
It just felt very unnecessary, and it was just like a special effects show-off time, I guess.
And they weren't that great.
No, they weren't. I will say, each one of these movies starts off the same fucking way as far as like you end up on the X. It's always like some kind of computer. It's very computer. They were in love with computer graphics for the opening sequences of like
Cerebro door.
Cerebro door is always the ending, and you go down a hallway of genetics to get there. But this time, this is actually the best opening, I thought.
I agree.
Because it was like a time tunnel that you were going down.
Yeah, the titles.
Yeah, and you're seeing all these different things that are just related to everything from ancient Egypt through World War II and beyond. And so that was actually pretty enjoyable. I thought, well done. If that's one of the better things about the movie, that's not saying a lot. I guess because it's just the opening sequence.
So we would both agree that out of these three, that we both collectively agree this is the weakest link.
Easily. For any number of reasons,
Loads
which
of
I
reasons.
will list now.
Loads.
Yeah.
And here they are.
No, it's. I was more entertained by it than I remembered being the first time I saw it.
Me too.
Probably some of that has to do with just getting into the X-Men spirit of things and just, being tired at that point and just being like, I'll just watch the thing.
Okay, let's wrap this up.
But I'm also looking at it like knowing that I'm not going to love a lot of the choices they made and therefore I can just laugh, instead of being upset.
There were a lot of me sitting there with my iPad watching this and like laughing out loud.
Yes,
and
it's hilarious.
Like, what are you doing? Like she'd look over at me and I'm like, I'm sorry, this is hilarious.
It's silly. It's a lot of silliness going on.
There is some silliness. So do we want to tear it down first and build it back up? Do we want to just put it through some therapy?
So we want to do the longest part first and the 2-minute part last, yes?
Okay, then let's do the nice things.
Okay.
Things that I like. Young Storm, I like.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's just the actress, like the way it's being portrayed, but I love that she actually has an origin closer, again, to what we see in the cartoons. Moira's back, also check for me. I like Moira. My favorite bit in this entire film is watching Magneto unravel. That scene actually depressed me.
It was a bummer.
Even though... Okay, let's break this down. He said... I'm fine hiding my powers. I am a happy man now. I have a wife. I have a daughter. I want to live my life. I'm really happy. The thing that bummed me out is the thing that drove him to his demise started off with him trying to be a good guy and save someone. Mm-hmm. So he saves this guy at the plant. Of course, they called the weird Gestapo. I don't know what the fuck is going on.
I'm not sure where they are even.
Yeah, weird Eastern European something.
Well, it's like the local PD, it seems like.
Which comprises of men carrying bow and arrows.
I'm assuming they're not metal-tipped arrows because they intentionally left their badges and everything at home. That's why they did that, was to avoid the Magneto.
To avoid the stuff, but I'm like,
Yeah.
Half drawn. Very interesting choice.
I liked that they seemed genuinely afraid.
They did.
They're kind of going in like, Mr. Magneto, you're coming with me.
I like the way that scene is played. He looks very shaken when he notices that the daughter is gone. And he's like, oh, she's probably outside. She's not there. Okay. So we're going through that whole thing. I enjoyed the whole way that played out until silly Arrow Man makes the move that kills both his daughter and his wife. Now, I will still admit that still got me enough to be like, oh my God, this is actually devastating. Like, this guy's actually trying to comply.
Yeah.
And being like, whatever it is that's best for my wife and my daughter, I'm going to let it go. There is something that I did like about the badassery of when he takes the necklace and he just slits the throat of all of them.
It's very biblical.
And I was like, and we're done. I was like, we're done now. I was like, he tried to be cool. He really did try to be cool. And he was like, the world literally, he just feels that point wants to fuck him. He was like, I'm never going to be happy. So guess what? I'm not doing it anymore. So now I am on a fucking rampage. That is the only scene that was like genuinely very striking. And then from there, it's just kind of like you said. It's like, I'm going to enjoy this for what it is. There's some giggles. Well, there's a lot of giggles. There's a lot of like just ridiculous laughs. But that's the only part that actually, when I think about like, okay, remember this movie, that sticks in the most, I guess. Maybe when Charles transfers his memories back to Moira so she can remember what happened.
Yeah,
they had something.
They don't.
I guess maybe that was fine.
It was. I liked.
That's fine.
That he did that. It felt weird to bring. I mean, I was happy to see Rose Byrne as the character back, but it just felt like a weird addition because she wasn't anywhere to be found in the second movie, and he had taken her memories away at the end of the first one, so that she got thrown into the middle of all this. She had good enough reason to be there, but it didn't serve a lot of purpose. Yeah, it just kind of was a way to give Professor Xavier someone to kind of be romantic with eventually, which is fine, I guess. But I mean, it's not a huge complaint. It's just more like, well, I guess she can be here too, doing something. That whole thing with Magneto, one, I had forgotten about it completely. When I saw the movie, once we saw what was going on with him back at home, because he was working at the metal place first and then goes back home to wife and daughter, I said, oh, these motherfuckers, I forgot that they did this.
Yep.
Not because it's so depressing, although it is. Like, it is. He plays it emotionally very well. It is one of the cheapest, most bullshit ways I've ever seen to get
rid of it. Yeah.
Well, not only that. No, the whole thing they're doing with Magneto. This is a man who, at the last we saw him,
was like, I'm out. I fuck everybody.
I was shot in the neck by my only person that I thought still really cared about me.
Yep.
My friends are walking away from me. I have been defeated. I will be killed if I'm caught. I'm going. Now, I won't say that he couldn't have found another way to live in the meantime. But, one, that seems unlikely. Two, that's a long walk that we see none of. We are told that he has gone through a personal change, like a spirit change. And the only reason he has is so that we can piss him off more.
Yeah.
This is totally so that they can give us a vengeful Magneto and that we can feel bad for him.
Yep.
Because I was angry at him during this. He is look, the guy who shot the wife and daughter at the same time, it's insane. I mean, there are ways that they could have handled that better. Yep. And he is at fault for accidentally firing on somebody.
Yeah.
They are there because Magneto is a criminal and a murderer who has not paid for it. He's supposed to be in jail.
Yeah, so he is very much supposed to be in jail.
Magneto has drawn people into his life. He says, hey, I don't want to play Magneto anymore. Okay, cool. But that's like Dahmer saying like, look, like I kill people. I'm not going to do it anymore. I just want to go hang out in my apartment, please. Like, I'm sorry. That's not how it works. And you know that this is the life that's going on. So by having a wife and by having a daughter, you are knowingly drawing them into what could be danger.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he shouldn't have done any of that. I obviously you do what your heart goes where it goes.
Yeah.
And it's not literally his fault that particular thing happened, but it is his fault that they were in danger.
Yeah.
And so that at the end, it is very satisfying what he does to kill this guy, because it feels like Magneto feels very much the victim, because that's what we're being told in the moment.
Yeah.
But all it is we need Magneto to be Magneto again.
Yeah.
And so just leave him as Magneto. Like, this is...
We didn't even need to do it.
This is super cheap. This is playing us as chumps, as viewers, and doing it in the oldest, dumbest way. Oh, give him a family and then kill them. Killed both of the women in his life. And they were the ones that made him insane. Now he's going to go back to being a monster again.
Yeah.
It's just so cheap and shitty, and they did this cool thing with this character where he kind of comes to another understanding, and we never really even get to see any of that.
You want to talk about also extra cheap? He finally goes to the factory.
Yes.
He's like, you're all going to fucking die.
Yeah.
And Apocalypse shows up and does the silly, let me melt the floor, and they all go half in it. I was like, oh my God.
Well, here's the thing. I don't like Apocalypse any day of the night of the day. Any night of the day.
Any night of the day.
Any night of the day, babe. But that's fine with me, because all of that vengeance shit at that point only pisses me off more with Magneto. He, is victimizing himself.
Look what you did.
You guys did to me.
Do this.
It's like, yes, everyone is responsible for their actions. That man did call them, and then they did this and all this stuff. Are you or are you not the man who tried to kill the President of the United States with a fucking baseball stadium as your weapon of choice?
Are you not the man that
murdered,
tried to kill the only woman that actually gave a shit about you,
and has killed many people? Like, at this point, and
loads of people.
And I don't mean just the Nazis that he hunted down, which we tend to just say, "Cool, go for it." But like, I mean, he is. That's why he was in prison in the first place, underneath the Pentagon.
Yeah. Oh,
and,
yeah.
So,
plastic palace.
Like, it is such bullshit. And then all he does for the rest of the movie is get played by Apocalypse off of this.
Yeah.
So this bullshit thing that the writers just cooked up
makes you a puppet.
This fake thing. I mean, I know it's all fake, it's all made up, but in a fiction, there are things that feel real. Like, what's real for the fiction?
Yeah.
This is not. This just feels like we need. Look at our good-looking Magneto. We need to make sure that everyone can feel bad for him before he goes crazy again.
And it worked on me because, like, as we talked about, if it's anything about touching a wife or a kid, I'm like, I'm out because I'm a married mom.
I feel bad for him, and also angry at him. Like, that's the thing. I ultimately don't I don't see him as a victim in this case.
Yeah.
He is furthering.
There's a little bit of a karma-y vibe.
Well, there's a bit, basically, violence begets violence. Mm-hmm. And so he has proven that over and over again. He is a result of that. But when he is continuing, like as Magneto pulling the links of the chain together, he is chaining events together that are always violent.
Yeah.
And as long as he is acting violent, violence finds him, and then he feels victimized again. And it's very hard for me. And it's like the only reason I feel for him is because it was well done, that part, and because he is a good actor who I do feel connected to.
Yeah.
But I'm pissed. I'm pissed that they did this. It seems like such a bullshit choice. Total cop out. And so the rest of his presence in the movie, it's just kind of.
He's like not. Yeah, it's
he's
kind
barely
of like thrown
there.
away.
Yeah.
He's just look. I'm now calling the middle of the earth.
Yeah,
and I've got
Apocalypse
giant spinny things.
Beefs him up, makes him more powerful, which is, that's cool because he's been showing getting more powerful, but then I guess the way that we're seeing him in the future is even more powerful. So if this is how he got there, fine, whatever.
Fine.
It's not my choice how he would get there, but that's what happens.
Let's get into goofiness. Let's just get into it. My ultimate, I don't know why, it struck me so goofy. So you got this guy who is from an ancient time of Egypt. The whole fucking him touching the TV, learning.
Yeah. He seemed like a dumb robot at that point. Yeah,
hilarious.
Hilarious. I think any number of things that I have a problem with Apocalypse. I'm not saying that they would all be addressed by the performance changing and him looking different, but I can't even imagine what the movie would have been, or just his character would have been, if one, he had been beefed up physically, because it's like, it doesn't have to match the comics, but that's part of the thing about him is he's very physically imposing. Like he's tall.
Scary.
It's not even muscle. It's just that he's just large.
He's huge.
Yeah. And no, you don't have to play it that way. But when you have him, I don't know if it was his idea or the director who said, make sure you talk through your nose and with a lisp. Because that is what he did as Apocalypse.
I just don't want to believe that was Oscar Isaac.
I don't know.
I just don't want to.
It seems like they were playing up his, not meekness, but his strange calm. But it just made him seem sleepy.
My child.
I am Apocalypse, and I will take you to the... It's just, at no point was he intimidating. And this guy is supposed to be the Thanos of the X-Men. Think of it that way.
I was trying to look up. I want to see the comics version of him.
There's numerous versions, but he looks. It's not, you couldn't have really done that exact thing in the movies, but they took elements of it. For starters, don't make him bright blue.
Good, easy start.
That's just a start. But he doesn't look threatening. He is not physically imposing. He doesn't even feel menacing. I'm okay with them doing this whole thing where he's kind of playing mutant messiah, Like that's interesting, even though it doesn't quite, it's not the comic way, but that's fine. It's boring. It's just fucking boring. And I don't understand why anyone would ever I want to be intimidated by him, not waiting to see the cool thing he's going to do that he never does. Have you found him yet?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm looking at all these different versions of him. Very interesting.
It's a cool character. In the comics, there are versions of it, but the basic idea is that he believes in Darwinism, and he is intentionally trying to find the strongest and weed out the weak.
Yes.
And the interesting dichotomy there on this, even though they don't really go into that quite a bit, is that Magneto is a survivor of that kind of thinking. Very much so. And so Magneto and Apocalypse are not buddies in the comics. But in this, Magneto up his own side. But if Magneto really was looking at what Apocalypse is about, he would see that I'm just working for basically the men who held me down at Auschwitz. Yeah. Essentially.
Yeah.
He's too much of a supervillain in this. He's too much of a supervillain without being as charismatic as a supervillain should be.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna be just evil, then you got to be charming.
Yeah.
And that's for all of you out there. If you're going to turn evil, get charming right now. Go to charm school.
Charming.
Yeah. So Apocalypse pulls together what he calls the Four Horsemen.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's true to the comics. That's what he's done for a long time. And
goes with a name.
That's cool. Why not? Sure, go with it. Who he pulls together? We've got Magneto. Cool. We've got Storm.
Baby Storm.
Who I like her appearance as Storm. I like that they went with Mohawk Storm. That's one of my favorite looks for her in the comics.
Yeah.
And I like the setup that does match the comics, that she was a thief in Cairo.
Yep.
I wish that she wouldn't have figured out that she's at fault so quickly. Later on in it, she's kind of like, oh, I want to be with the X-Men because I look up to Mystique.
Oh yeah,
and maybe in Dark Phoenix maybe she struggles with it more, but like I like the idea of a storm coming from a place of I just survive on the streets and I'll do whatever it takes to survive, and then having to learn how to be part of something that you can trust.
They were like, we only got an hour and 43 minutes.
Yeah, and like 20 characters, so get in there.
Yeah, 400 characters.
But you got her. You have got Psylocke.
Thank you. I was like, what's
who played by Olivia Munn and not given much to do. Her costume. Look. The 13-year-old and the 35-year-old in me are quite thankful to be seeing Olivia Munn running around in basically like a
tiny purpley pink
swimsuit.
Yeah.
Like, which is what she wore in the comics. She is probably the only character who just got a straight, here's
comic
what you
outfit.
wore in the comics. It is also one of the least reasonable things a person has ever worn in the comics.
Fair.
So it just seems like, why are you don't have physical powers. Why are you just burying your body? But they didn't, it was a wasted opportunity. Again, it's a convoluted character in the comics. She was a British psychic woman who eventually became an Asian woman. Explain that another time. But none of that's necessary. Like, I don't care about that part. It's a cool character, ultimately, whatever you do with her.
Cool power.
Cool powers. But because we got to have these 4 villains on top of the main one.
Throw her in.
We're not going to have room for her to do anything, really. And I wanted to know what she had been doing at the Mutant Underground, you know, which I found to be,
she looked like a bouncer, essentially.
Yeah. I was so much more interested in that than anything else in this film, really. Like, once I saw that and the character named Caliban, the guy with the big eyes and the ball, that
Caliban
version
likes money.
Yes. That version of those characters and that idea were like, I was like, oh, you could have told like 15 movies with all this. You
yeah,
could
with
have done
a cool, like, he's going to get you an ID and you can do all that stuff.
And people are always trying to, you know, like, we're going to, it's basically the Underground Railroad, but for mutants.
Yeah.
And then his 4th, the Angel of Death, would be Angel making a reappearance from X-Men 3, but it's not him. My issue is that this character showed up younger than this guy in the 3rd movie, which is set in the future. And none of this would be explained by the timeline shifting.
Oh, no,
people don't just get born earlier because of something you did in time travel. He's fighting in the arena. You know, when we first meet him, we don't know why. We don't know anything about him except he's heavy drinking and he loves Metallica.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I had forgotten that he was listening to the 4 Horsemen. And that's one of my favorite fucking Metallica songs. That jazzed me up.
You got very excited.
I did get very excited because I love that song. The villain's just underwhelming overall, and there's a lot of back and forth. Like Apocalypse is as powerful as you want him to be in the moment, or as weak as you want him to be in the moment, based on whatever the plot dictates. And you can pull that off, by the way, if you make me interested in all the characters and think the villain is interesting. It's not that you have to make it believable.
Yeah.
You just have to distract me with enjoyment.
Yeah.
To get me
make
off
him
of that
do cool shit.
Yes.
Quicksilver saving all the people in the mansion. No, they're just cool little. We're doing a little re-moment or a little relive of that.
It's a straight up repeat. It is really good.
I like it that's actually saving nice people. So before we saw shenanigans.
True. But he still fucks around. He's still
he totally does.
He dances with somebody
he drinks
the thing.
He the dog with the pizza in its mouth.
There's a lot of funny, and it was really well done. It was really funny. Again, it really seemed like they were just like, hey, it worked last time. Why not? This is the only way we can use him. But we also have the new young X-Men.
Oh, yeah.
Which are Cyclops.
God, how could I forget? Well, I literally just blocked them from my brain.
Yeah,
and I didn't really necessarily have a mega problem with them, except the whole, we were laughing the other day about I want to go to the mall.
I mean, my issue was more with Cyclops saying that. I can kind of see him being like a new place, and that's his way of kind of trying to act like he's a tough guy or a cool
like
guy or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Like between him and what's the name of the woman who plays Jean Grey?
Sophie Turner.
Okay. I haven't really seen either of them in a lot or much or at all.
I've seen Baby Cyclops in Ready Player One, which I did enjoy that movie. It was just fun. And Sophie Turner, obviously, from Game of Thrones.
Yes. From this, I am led to either believe that
it's COVID.
They weren't great at the craft yet. They were having a hard time, maybe. And I know that things were tense on set often with Bryan Singer, is what I've read. So who knows what that's from. But other people managed to turn in good performances.
I felt that Sophie Turner was better than Ready Player One guy.
I don't think either of them were any good.
Oh, okay. No.
Unless they were, here's the thing. They were written as unlikable people. in my opinion.
Unlikable youths.
They meet each other, and I know, like, Cyclops can't see, and he's a jerk, and she's a jerk, and probably part of that is that they're both uncomfortable, but they're just not likable. I will
agree with that. I'm like, I don't really have any reason to be interested in you.
No, I find them, like, immediately, like, not just the difference between being not attractive and unattractive, I guess. I mean, they're both good-looking people. No, but what I mean is, like, someone being, like, someone you just aren't that interested to go approach, and someone that you actively avoid, they're the latter. They seem like, go have a romance and get away from everybody else, please.
Well, and the problem is, especially with the Cyclops for me, or Cyclops land for me, is like, I don't like Scott as an adult. Why the fuck do I want to like young Scott?
And that was an opportunity to make us like him.
Didn't happen.
Change his character a little bit.
Didn't happen.
Well, no, because they didn't really do much of anything with him. The only thing they gave him, I felt bad for him when his brother died.
Yeah.
But I would do that for anybody. And I got to ask, how far apart were they having kids in the Summers family? Because his brother is like 20 in Vietnam.
Oh, yeah.
Or actually, he's 20 in 19, or let's say on the low end, 17 in 1962.
And we're in 1990.
Well, in this, we're in 1985. Oh, right. Yeah. So 20 years later, his brother, Havoc, Alex Summers.
He's supposed to be 40?
You would think. Even if you want to say he was 15 in that first movie, which is not truly. I mean, don't think of the actor, just think of like them being young.
Yeah.
Let's say on the young side of high school, 15 years old at youngest, he would be 35 at that point, which he could. I mean, he has a look that could be in his.
I thought that guy was like 28.
20s to 30s.
Yeah.
But that's the point. Their timeline fucked everything. Why did they make this character from the comics? That's a character from the comics.
What, Scott's 16?
Even if he's 18, this is crazy.
18,
I mean, he's in school, high school, so he's between 15 and 18. Like, it's insane, and there was no need to make him, one, use that character Havoc, two, make him Scott's brother just because he was in the comics, but they did it, and now they're stuck with this shit, and it's almost like they're throwing it in our faces, like, you'll just eat whatever we give you. I know that's physically possible for the parents to do that, but why? Why did this happen? Leave him out of it, man. Nightcrawler,
he's there.
He doesn't do anything wrong, I guess.
No,
but
he's like the least offensive because he's not doing anything.
Yeah, but he's not even being as like fun as Nightcrawler. I want like some wide-eyed innocence from him, not just I fucked up, oopsie, kind of stuff.
Oh, I want to go to the mall.
Yeah, and then they threw Jubilee in for good measure just to have fun for a second.
Yeah, that was. Okay.
These are almost cameos because one, they're not the stars of the movie. They get a lot of screenplay, I guess.
That's the fucking problem. It's like you didn't get a chance to give a fuck about young Jean.
Yeah.
To lead up to this movie.
No.
Or lead up to Dark Phoenix, which again we haven't seen yet, but still, it's just.
Why would a movie based around the fall from grace and death of a character I already don't care about and have only known for one movie sound appealing to me? I'm going to watch it, but...
And I did think, now that I think about it, I thought it was cool the way they used her at the end. I'm not saying like anything, but I'm like, they're trying to tee up, but essentially, I guess I could go, kind of to your point earlier is, it almost was a little cheap to tee her up and be like, fuck, we have to let people know she's really powerful. She's real powerful. Well, and because she's gonna go apeshit in the next one.
Well, and again, her defining character trait is that she's dangerous if her powers are fully realized. She is a person. I don't know much about her or what she's like. She goes from being kind of jerky and defensive to just being scared to being confident.
Moody teen,
which I mean that's teens. But
it's teens.
But her main character trait is people are afraid of me and my powers, and I'm worried about what I'm gonna do.
Oh, God. And then when they let Wolverine out,
the
animal has been unleashed.
It's neat that they did the callback to like Weapon X. That's a particular storyline in the comics with some really beautiful art that like they gave him the headgear and all this stuff. I mean, he looked kind of silly because he had like cut off shorts on. Like long shorts.
Yeah, he looked like the Hulk.
Yes.
It's like, these pants. Okay.
But I mean, they found another way to put Wolverine in, but we didn't get his charm. So I'm not...
You just get animal.
I wasn't jonesing for that. I didn't think it needed to be there. I'm not completely against it. It just felt like the equivalent of a cash grab, I guess, where it's like, hey, let's just throw in...
He's here.
Wouldn't it be neat if this happened? The whole thing is convoluted. It's messy and not as fun.
No, not as fun. Apocalypse, overall, like you said, I did not hate it as much as I did the first time I watched it. However, it is such a clear letdown compared to the other two.
Yeah.
Like my enjoyment was like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, well, I would put and you know, I'd put them a little closer together.
Yeah.
They weren't that bad, but I still stand by overall. I enjoyed this rewatch than I did from the first, the original three.
Yeah, and they hang together in a fun, messy but fun way.
Messy but fun.
I agree.
As usual, thank you all for listening to us as we go on our little journeys. We wouldn't mind if you left us a nice review, or if you hadn't subscribed yet, go ahead and do it. Why not? Why not do it? You can always visit our websites at thepairables.com. That's where we can put lots of show notes and give you easy access to all the places you can listen. You can obviously follow us on Instagram at thepairables, Pairables. You can also check out Will on Days Past Tooncast, where, go ahead and throw in the tagline. I love it so much.
We have adult conversations about yesterday's animations.
Damn right. God, I love it so much. And we'll be back next week with, you know what? Whatever the hell we want to be back with. And you'll like it, and you'll listen to it. Please listen to it.
You'll like it, or I'll know why not.
Bye. I could not agree more. I mean, honestly.
We'll try.
Okay, hold on.
Well, I agree, Sword!
So, what is the name? Hold on. I'm going to remember it. Hold on. No, I wrote it. I know I wrote it down somewhere. Hold on.
Stop arguing with yourself.
Hold, please. I know what the fuck it's called.
X-Men.